Welcome to the Cannabis 101 podcast, your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond. Here's your host, Dean Millard.
Hello there, and welcome to episode number 73, hour one of the Cannabis 101 podcast. My name is Dean Millard, and remember, it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. This has been a bit of a different week. I actually was unhealthy. I had some tough, challenging mental health days, so we had to push things back a little bit. So hour number one and hour number two will come out on the same day. But it is what it is, and we pushed through it, and the journey continues. So anyway, as for this show, there is one way we do kick things off on this program, and that's by finding out just exactly what's your groove.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Can you dig it?
Kinda grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Pipe in a grape, long in a blend.
This is great. This is the bee's knees.
Can you dig it?
So when I say what's your groove, I'm wondering, while you're listening or watching this show, are you grooving with anything when it comes to cannabis? Do you got a joint? Maybe just some nice relaxing CBD?
Pipe in a grape, long in a blend.
I'm not really sure, but I would love to hear from you. Hit us up on Twitter at the Cannabis 101. You can get us on Instagram and Facebook at the Cannabis 101 Podcast, and you can email me, Cannabis101podcast at gmail.com, and let me know exactly what it is that you are grooving with, if indeed you are, while you're listening to this show. I'm just firing up the Volcano hybrid that I have, Supernova, as I call it. I picked it up using Click and Collect from Nova Cannabis. My good friend Chris Ianson, one of our, Chris is a good partner of this show. He comes on, he helps out, he provides information, just like Malcolm LaBelle, David Wiley, Stone Smiths, some great companies that are great partners on this program. So what I'm going with today is Rockstar Tuna from the Green Organic Dutchman. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because that's who we're featuring on What's That Strain with my good friend Chris Ianson later on in this episode. So, Rockstar Tuna, as I fire it up, the packaging from the Green Organic Dutchman, if you've never seen it, it's very eye-catching. You know, in a world where you can't do any advertising, and there's so many restrictions, they legitimately stand out. So, like Family Guy said, everything is better with a bag of weed. I've got some Rockstar Tuna. I'm going to get my groove on, and then we'll get the show going. All right, I'll save the rest of that for a little bit later on. But again, thank you to all of our partners on the program, and especially you, the listener, and the viewer, for being the biggest partner that we have, and the reason why we exist, to try to give you some great information, like great companies like stonesmith.ca, one of our partners, a great local company. Check them out at stonesmiths.ca. All right, here is what's coming down the hash pipe on this episode. What's That Strain? As mentioned, Rockstar Tuna from the Green Organic Dutchman. Malcolm LaBelle will join us for the business of cannabis. We're going to discuss possible changes to the Cannabis Act. Martha Stewart in Game Changers, and what it means to be green. We're looking at green investors. So things are a little bit different this week. Chris usually joins us in hour number 2, but we had to shake things up as well. David Wiley will join us in hour number 2 as we just made a swap of positions for those two guys on the program. Our cannabis question will be about regulations, and on our weed word of the day, we're going to talk about pot, the origins of that word as well. We are going to discuss hempcrete. So I want to tell you also a little bit later about the Weed Weekly, where you can get into our giveaway for a prize package each and every week. But let's get things going right now with the cannabis question.
It's prize time! Chime in on the cannabis question.
Okay.
And you could win a Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack.
Pipe and a grape, bong and a blint.
Hit us up on any of our social media feeds or email us at cannabis101podcast@gmail.com.
Okay, here we go.
So the question is, and if you're watching, you can see it there. If you're listening, here it is. What is one regulation you would like changed when it comes to the Cannabis Act in Canada and the legalization of recreational cannabis? What is one regulation you would change regarding cannabis? Please, if you have more, fill me in on those as well. You can email me, cannabis101podcast@gmail.com. You can also get us on Twitter at the Cannabis 101 and the Cannabis 101 podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And the reason you're going to want to chime in is that everybody that chimes in goes into the draw, and you could win some more Regal cigars. By the way, Andre is going to join us later today on hour number 2. We're going to discuss the wonderful Regal cigars. Oh man, I've been wanting to have this conversation with Andre since the first time we met, when we first had lunch together, and way pre-COVID, when people actually did get together and hang out. So that's the cannabis question. What is one regulation you would change? And just for chiming in, you go into the mix and you could be winning yourself a beautiful Regal cigar. So I want to tell you about the Weed Weekly before we get into what's that strain. And that is where every Friday we send out our newsletter, the Weed Weekly, from the Cannabis101podcast.ca. And we give you information about the show, maybe things that you may have missed. We break things down. We throw in some fun quotes and history. We also do a giveaway where we spin the wheel of names. So it's a lot of fun. It's a good way to keep up with the show. So don't miss out on anything that we have going on. Check it out at the Cannabis101podcast.ca. Hit subscribe and you're in the mix, because the Weed Weekly and the prizes that go along with it are only available to subscribers.
What's that strain? Let's find out with Chris Ianson, Nova Cannabis store manager and educator.
My educator and the manager of Nova Cannabis Jasper Ave, Chris Ianson, joining me as usual for What's That Strain. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great, Dean. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks very much for making your way out here to the studios as usual, as we dive into another cultivar here on What's That Strain, episode 73. And this is an LP that I've really been looking forward to diving into. You know, I heard about them. It was actually Grant Sanderson of Nova who actually first turned me on to these guys. So I've been excited about the Green Organic Dutchman. And the cultivar we're doing today is Rockstar Tuna. And this is an indica dominant hybrid for anybody out there that is looking at that, but not, when people sometimes when they hear indica, they might think, oh, I'm immediately going to fall asleep. So that's why we say an indica dominant hybrid.
Yeah.
So it does have some indica qualities, but not a couch lock make you fall asleep indica.
Yeah, well said, because I get people coming in the store all the time like, I'm just looking for a pre-roll, highest THC you got, and I'll tell them the options we've got, and I'll have higher percentage on the indica, but it's not necessarily a couch lock sedative indica. Mm-hmm. But yeah, people are kind of, there's a bit of a misconception on just all indicas are going to put you to sleep.
Exactly.
It's not true, yeah.
Yes, and that's the case with with this one for sure. So let's talk about the Green Organic Dutchman. Tell us a little bit about, who, what, when. Give us the details on these guys.
Yeah, totally, Dean. So yeah, the Green Organic Dutchman, or Tea God, as we call them. I love that name.
Yeah.
They're a global leader in cultivating premium certified organic cannabis. They were founded in 2012 by a couple of Dutch folks, Scott Skinner and Jeanette Vandermerel. And started out in 2012 on the medical side first. And recently the company was run for the last 2 years by CEO Brian Athade. But just this week, it was announced that he'd stepped down from his position there. And their CFO, Sean Bovingdon, stepped in as the interim CEO. So pretty big news there, changing over the CEO. We'll keep an eye on that and kind of keep you guys posted on that.
Yeah, indeed. And the Green Organic Dutchman is, as we're looking at a shot, if you're watching us, with a magnifying glass on there. And that's something that we like to do. We definitely like to examine our cannabis and get up and close and personal with it. I think that's something that everybody should do.
I agree. I think everyone should have a little magnifying glass with them. If you're a cannabis enthusiast, get up close and personal and really get to see all the different colors, all the trichomes. Sometimes it looks alien. It's very foreign. It just doesn't look right when you look up close. You're like, what the heck am I looking at?
Yeah.
But also
spiny.
Yeah, spiny like Mike Tyson.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Green Organic Dutchman, TGOT, as people in the cannabis industry kind of refer to them, even their website. Where does that name come from, the Green Organic Dutchman?
Yeah, so I think it just has to do with they were founded by Dutch folks. Green is the color of bud. It's organic flower they're growing, and it's Dutch folks. So Green Organic Dutchman
Works. It seems very simple when you think about it. At first, you're like, oh, I wonder where this name came from, and then it's a simple explanation. So tell us about these guys. Where are they located? What sort of facilities do they have?
Yeah, for sure, Dean. So their head office is in Mississauga, Ontario. And they've got two massive facilities here in Eastern Canada. In Ancaster, Ontario, they have a 166,000 square foot facility. Very high-tech facility, too. A lot of kind of cutting edge stuff here that you're not going to see at everyone's grow show. And then they also have the Valleyfield facility in Quebec, and this one is 1.3 million square feet. So that's huge. I've seen some aerial shots of it, some photos, and it's massive. Massive. I saw a parked car, and it just looked like a small person, but that's a car. So the ratio of it is nuts. And then there's a third facility in Jamaica.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's right. So they had an acquisition of a company down there called Epican, a 49% acquisition, and it's a fully integrated Jamaican cannabis company with cultivation, extraction, manufacturing, and retail distribution licenses.
Beautiful.
So that's pretty cool. And then one other thing too that they have on the global side of things is they have a company called Hempoland, and it's a hemp company out of Poland.
Nice.
Hemp Poland.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and it's a very heavy focus on hemp. They even buy hemp, they sell hemp, they grow it. So it's just neat to see. They're in Canada, Jamaica, Poland. I feel like TGOT is very well positioned to really kick some butt in the global market.
Yeah, when you used the word globally off the top of this, you weren't kidding. They really are spread out, and their name is the Green Organic Dutchman. So tell us how they organically grow.
For sure, Dean. So they grow all their cannabis in organic, living soil. And within that soil, they've got living organisms. And that's going to be beneficial bacteria and fungi in there, and in that soil, and it takes care of the plant. It kind of offers a buffet of goodness for the plant. And so with each crop cycle, the living soil becomes more fertile. So as it gets better with age, I guess, the soil. And all the cuttings too are plantlets. They're micro-propagated. We've talked about that, and that's what that's plant tissue culture cloning, where you kind of can really remove any kind of issues with the
Get
genetics.
the best of the plant.
That's right, Dean. So that's pretty cool. They also use on-site wells and fresh rainwater reservoirs. 90% of the water is collected and recycled.
It's very smart, and we've heard about that in the past with Tantalus Labs and things like that on the other side of the country. So it's great to see that the process is being used at some of these great facilities.
Yeah, man. I think like a focus on environmental sustainability is important.
100%.
Especially in the cannabis industry. It's plants we're dealing with here.
Yes.
So let's be good to Mother Earth.
Yes.
They've got that rain system. They have, and it's kind of a greenhouse facility, but there's supplemental high efficiency LED lighting in the grow rooms, as well as staggered lighting, and that reduces energy consumption and heat, and upping their operational efficiencies.
Oh, that's good.
So it's pretty cool. And then I guess one more thing, Dean, they're known as the good neighbor. In the Ancaster community, they actually have a farm where they grow fruits and vegetables there, organic fruits and vegetables, and they donate the farm to people that need it, families that need it. The food bank. To date, they've donated over 2,000 pounds of food to the Hamilton Food Bank. So awesome. I love hearing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not all about bottom dollar and profit. It's about the culture of cannabis, and hearing companies do this, I think is so important. So I'm a big fan of the T-God brand. Here in Canada, we've got the T-God, and there's also Highly Dutch Organic. Haven't seen it in Alberta yet. It's in Ontario, but they've got a hash. They've also got a big bag. So if you guys haven't checked out T-God, highly recommend it. It's really good organic cannabis.
All right. Yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. Anything that I've received from them, or purchased from them rather. So let's talk about the lineage and the history with Rockstar Tuna, and we are doing this cultivar by the Green Organic Dutchman. So tell us a little bit about Rockstar Tuna. What is the backstory and the lineage?
Yeah, for sure, Dean. So Rockstar Tuna, aka Tuna Rockstar or Tuna Star. It's cool genetics. It's a Tuna Kush crossed with a Rockstar. Now the Tuna Kush is a black tuna strain, cultivar, pardon me, crossed with an OG Kush, and then the Rockstar is Bubba Kush crossed with Harmony. So kind of got some nice Kush aspects to it. It's a legendary dank, mostly indica dominant cultivar. Legend with this cultivar has to do with its aroma. Having that tuna in the name, it's been known to have that kind of that pungent smell of rotting fish, which is like, and I've seen that on multiple things. It's just, I think it's so funny when cannabis is kind of compared or described as like, hey, like it smells like
rotting fish. Come smoke this.
Yeah, or the rotting meat.
Yeah, that meat breath. I had a hard time with that smell, but when you get it all into a joint or whatever you're going with, everything comes together. So it doesn't actually. I didn't think it tasted that bad. This is a unique taste or smell with the lineage. We'll see when we're going to test it out here. I haven't had this specific cultivar. By the way, we should almost have like a swear jar every time we use the word strayed. We'll have to put $1 in there.
Jar?
A strain jar.
Awesome.
So what makes this certified organic with the Green Organic Dutchman?
Right, Dean. So they've got a few things that they do in their process that kind of make them qualify for that certification. So grown in living soil, like we mentioned.
Yep.
No synthetic fertilizers. They use full spectrum sun grown light with the LED supplemental as needed. Purified rainwater and natural pest control too. So they're no pesticides.
No pesticides.
Yeah. And then it's also hand selected, hand trimmed stuff. So just really kind of down to the roots of the cannabis. Okay.
So when you go to their website, by the way, which is www.tgod.ca, TGOD.ca, there's some really good explanations about I guess about their certification, right? Like they're very, very transparent with this stuff, which everybody should be, especially when you are as certified as they are.
Yeah, man. A lot of good info on there. Like even just in the About Us section, I mean, you can see the process. You can see they show all their greenhouses. They really talk a lot about that grown and living soil part, and Yeah, I enjoy their website. It's great. They also have COAs on their website, so certificates of analysis. And I checked out the Rockstar tuna, loaded with real neat info, cannabinoid levels, terpene percentages, moisture content, microbiology tests, and even heavy metal tests.
Wow.
With like arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. Those kind of the four main ones that they test for in the cannabis tests. And you just want to make sure you have as little as possible with those.
Little to none.
Yeah, for sure. And but yeah, their COAs, passed with flying colors. Now the COA that I saw on the site didn't quite match up to the batch that we've got here in Alberta. It was based on like a 16%, but
sure,
lovely to see that though. I mean, it's great. I mean, maybe the next step would be I'm able to scan my eighth jar and see that COA right there for that specific
That's a
batch.
good idea.
I mean, probably take some back end work for them, but that would be important information for me as a consumer to know.
That should be the next step for every cannabis company, is trying to provide as much information as they can, and that sort of scan system online is awesome. Okay, so this batch that I picked up, 19.3%. We'll tell you where kind of that fits in on our scale. What's in a name? This is probably self-explanatory.
Yeah, it is. It's a genetic name. Both parents there, Tuna Kush, Rockstar Tuna. Pretty simple and basic one. I feel like the tuna namesake though is due to the aromas of the bud, which we'll get into when we get into the smell here. But yeah, it's just kind of a basic genetic name.
All right. So when we talk about the look, first of all, absolutely love the packaging. So looks like a normal jar, right? Nothing in my hand. Abracadabra. Boom. It's got like a vertical slant on it, but it doesn't tip over. It sits up perfectly, and it's glass. Yeah. So awesome stuff. It does come in a box. Now, is that for like storage for a store? Does it need the box? Like, would these sit fine in a jar? So could they get away without the box?
They could, Dean. Yeah, for sure. They do sit fine just on their own. Yeah. And as you mentioned, that wedge that's missing there.
Don't sit on your head.
Yeah. That wedge that's missing there, it's kind of nice it's for displaying it too. You can actually make your container like pop a wheelie and just kind of like sit facing up. So, big fan of that.
You know what? Also, it's green and it's dark and it's not all white. And you know my thoughts on that. This stands out.
It does.
Like this in a world where it's becoming even harder with changes to the Cannabis Act. You're trying to stand out any way you can. So I love that. I don't love that there's a lip. That's unfortunate inside, because we like to get all the goodness out of our cannabis jar.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be ideal. It does have a pretty heavy lip. I will mention too, the lids on these can be a little bit wonky. I just had some time where I push down, I'm twisting. It feels like the thread's not going.
Oh, okay.
Recently, though, one of my staff members, she'd mentioned that her little nephew had a jar of Rockstar, and he was just looking at it, and they're like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It's childproof." And in a couple seconds, he got into it and just like opened it up and just like put it down and walked away. He just wanted to like prove. So a little bit worrisome there on I guess the childproof, and maybe that's just a one-off there. But yeah, the lids maybe on this. I love the glass jar. I love the wedge. Not a big fan of the lid itself, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
can't win them all.
You're right, and obviously important that it is safe and secure. But I absolutely love the glass packaging. So let's get into the smell of this. And we always try to give a bit of a sniff to Nosy McGee, my wife, and she's been pretty bang on in a lot of stuff, and I agree with her on this one. But the smell. A lot of people are expecting, we talked about like rotting fish, like this strong tuna. When you open a tuna can, I didn't get that strong of it, as much of it. Did you?
Yeah, so it's kind of a tricky one, Dean, because with that, there's that suggestiveness of like, before I go in and smell it, I've got it in my head that this is going to remind me of tuna fish. I mainly got skunky and earthy. And I did have a bit of fishiness, but I do feel that might have been that kind of placebo effect of, in my head, I'm already kind of expecting it. When I, let a couple of my staff members give it a whiff, they were all kind of mentioned that they smelled the fishiness there too. But with Nosy McGee, she went into it blind. We didn't tell her what to expect.
Right.
I was waiting for her to be like, I got a little fish, but nothing.
She got the kind of the hoppiness, I think,
Yeah, she got the hoppy,
that
and
we're
she-
going to get to, but
Yeah.
not a lot of fish. And I didn't get it. And then we thought maybe after the grind, but I didn't get a lot. Now, we people are different and people smell different, and depending on your situation and whatever it might be. But not to say that the people that are smelling tuna are wrong. I just didn't get a whole lot of a tuna smell that maybe I was expecting.
Yeah. I think that's what it is, Dean. I'm sure there has been some skunky
Sure,
bacteria stuff, going around.
Yeah, she actually got fresh. That's the thing, the kind of the opposite of rotting fish, right? I guess that would be the opposite. Okay, so the terpene list in this one, we've got 4 nice ones.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of unique ones in here. So caryophyllane's the dominant one there, and that's black pepper and spice.
Yep.
We got bisabolol, and that one we kind of talked about recently, and that's kind of a creamy coffee almost. It's kind of found in both of those. Humulene is up next, and that's kind of found in hops. And I do feel like I did smell some hops too when I was kind of getting into it. And then we've got myrcene is the 4th terpene, and that's going to be kind of a earthy flavor to it. And myrcene's also found in mangoes there, Dean.
Okay, so really cool terpene profile, and that's one of the coolest things about cannabis for me is the things you can explore with this. What was your experience like? Because we all are a little bit different.
Yeah, so for me, Dean, my thing is very uplifting. Put me in a good mood. The initial buzz went to my head, right away to my head. Euphoric cerebral blasts of good times right to my dome.
Nice.
But then it settled into a super relaxing body stone that felt amazing and not too sedative at all. Like it didn't burn me right into my couch, so that was super nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it though. I thought the experience was super good. It put me in a real good mood. I was smiling a lot.
That is awesome. And of course, we are all different when it comes to our cannabis experience, so we all react a little bit differently when it comes to that. But in your opinion, what are the 3 W's? Who, what, and when is this good for?
So who it's good for? I think it's intermediate smokers. If you're just getting into cannabis, don't jump into some Rockstar Tuna. Level 2 and up, I think is great. When it's good for, any time of day, I think. I started my day off with some Rockstar Tuna, and it was super nice. I had a great day. It wasn't too heavy. And right after work was really nice too. What it's good for, relaxing and chilling. It's great for funny shows, creative projects. I did some drawing when I was on the Rockstar
Nice.
Tuna, yeah. And vegging out after work, I think is really nice too.
That is, it's so great when you can find kind of that the all-purpose strain or cultivar, another $1 in the jar, but that you can use daytime, evening sort of thing. So that's really nice. As for the taste test, I'm blowing up the old bag of weed here. Everything is better with a bag of weed. What is the taste profile with this? And are we revisiting the tuna?
So what I got earthy and spicy for sure.
Okay.
A little hoppiness to it as well. Slight sweetness in the flavor, almost like a grape. Maybe cough a little bit, like when I was hitting it, but still smooth. There was still some I guess it had some bite to it. I definitely didn't get any this is like eating a tuna fish sandwich or
I get a lot of halibut though. Just for the halibut, but no, I don't get but I certainly agree with the hoppy and then some of the fruitiness as well. So I'm liking that, the taste profile on this one. Made me cough a little bit as well. So
Yeah.
But it is very nice. The hoppiness is there, and that's what Nosy McGee got in some of the smell. So all right, I'm digging the Green Organic Dutchman. I like what they're doing. Rockstar Tuna. For us, there's not a lot of fishiness. There's no fishy stuff going on. No fishiness with this. But it's still very enjoyable. And
it's a nice
I'm
high.
kind of glad there's not rotting fish taste to it, actually.
Yeah, for sure. I was a little relieved.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, quickly, when you pick this up, if you want to, you can use Click and Collect at any of the Nova locations. You go through the Leafly site. Just so much better for everybody right now with not a lockdown, but maybe we're going to be in a lockdown. Who knows what's going on? We want to curtail this, so the less time I can spend in the store, the less face time I can have with you, the better. That's where click and collect comes in, right?
Totally, Dean. Yeah, we're just trying to keep everyone as safe as possible. Plus, too, you can shop our menu from home, too, so you can see what we got before you come in and get your order ready to go.
Yeah, it's awesome. And one of the things we're going to talk about that you guys have going are these bath salts. And there could be a joke in there somewhere that we probably shouldn't make, but I grabbed these actually. I went out to Plant Life here in St. Albert today, and Gage, he's like, "Hey, man, maybe you and your lady," and I'm like, "I'm having a Lebowski bath with these, man. That's what I'm going with." But tell us about the bath salts, because you guys have these as well.
Yeah, we just got them this Monday, so it's another fun new product from the brand Latitude, which is under the 48 North umbrella. And so this is called the Latitude Night Shift, and it's ylang ylang. I'm not sure if I said that right. Ylang ylang charcoal bath salts, and it's a 100 milligrams of THC and 100 milligrams of CBD in the package there, and it's pretty large too.
That's awesome. I
think you can get about three baths out of it. Is kind of what we figured out with what a standard dose for like an Epsom salt bath.
The one thing I will say is I've used some of these things before, and your tub gets really, really slippery. So be really, really careful.
Yeah.
And that's some of the balm. Maybe this is different because that's some of the balms that I had, and depending on what oil, but just be a little bit careful with some of that stuff you're putting in because it can get slippery. But I can't wait for this. It's going to be awesome.
I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm not a bath person, so it's not much for me. I can't remember the last time I had a bath.
Are you scared like a group of nihilists are going to bust into your place or something? Or
put a ferret
bringing a ferret in there? All right, so you got some bath salts. You guys got some really cool products. Click and collect is where you can get it.
Yeah, man, it's neat. A lot of the new products, we got topicals now, hashes out now, the concentrates. We're seeing terp slush.
The hash that we remember too, not kind of the sift dry. I love that dry sift hash that Tantalus Labs have, and some other Good Buds I think had some. But I love the brick sort of thing, or the ball that we used to get. It takes me back to
high school for me.
Can't use knives anymore on these new stoves, but still, it takes you back to the brick of hash days.
Yeah, it does, and those were good times. I remember when I first got into the cannabis industry, there was no hash on the lineup or horizon, but that was the one thing that we were like, I can't wait for hash to come out because we wanted to see what these LPs could do with their hash.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Okay, so Rockstar Tuna. Indica dominant hybrid, level 2, not for the beginner, but certainly a great beginner to level 2 stepping stone, and it's an indica dominant. So I don't think this is going to exactly knock you out. Use click and collect on the Leafly site and go visit Chris at Nova Cannabis. Thanks for coming in, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dean.
Smoke some grass. It's time to bust out this podcast.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast, your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond.
I want to remind you about one of our partners, as I was speaking of before, the Cannabis and Hemp Expo, which is happening late April 2021 at the Edmonton Expo Center. Unfortunately, like a lot of things, this has been postponed a couple of times. I'm sure we'll be able to have a successful event and a healthy and safe event in April 24th and 25th of 2021. You can find out more information and get tickets at cannabishempexpo.com. We'll be there. We'll have a booth. We'll be on location broadcasting, and we'd love to meet you. If you're in the area, please come and visit and be a part of an episode. And we will have some tickets to give away as we get closer to the date as well. April 24th and 25th of 2021. Check out the details at cannabishempexpo.com.
This is The Business of Cannabis, a joint venture between the Green Generation Co. and the Cannabis 101 podcast. Bringing you the latest bud, biz, buzz.
Joined as usual by Melka LaBelle of the Green Generation Co. You can find out how Melka can help you out at www.greengencompany.com. Melka, how are things? Has the snow stuck around a little bit these days?
I swear to God, the weather has a mental health problem. Like one day it's -10, the next day it's +10, and it's really, really windy. Like it can't make up its mind. It's very painful if you have like arthritis and, everyone's complaining about the changes.
Yeah, they say if you don't like the weather in Alberta, wait a few minutes and you'll get something different. I once, literally, when I first moved to Alberta, I once played tennis through sunshine, rain, hail, and we left before it snowed because I couldn't take it anymore. So anyway, let's get to the business of cannabis. And our first topic, the lead topic that we're getting to, is something that I'm really, really going to be watching, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching, especially you, very closely, and that is possible changes to the Cannabis Act. And I guess the mandate economics of the industry-led review of this Cannabis Act, or where does it start?
So the review is part of the initial legalization that, the federal government said, in 3 years after we legalize cannabis, we're going to review how it's going. So we're in year 2. And part of the unknown things that have popped up is that, cannabis was given to Health Canada as a mandate from a government standpoint, which meant that all of the regulations had to do with health and safety and keeping it away from kids and protecting, moving out the black market. But what's happened is that it's become an economic impactor of our economy. And largely COVID has accelerated that. So as an industry, and I'm part of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, the National Cannabis Working Group, which is an industry-led working group and a think tank for lobbying government and helping craft policy. And as a group, pretty much all of the LPs and most of the industry players are part of this organization. And we've set out a plan to do these roundtables over the next several months, addressing different aspects of the industry. And they're open to the public. I think actually pretty much anyone can join them. I mean, there's been members of the media on them. They're run by Eric Foster and his consulting group or legal team. And basically it's like an open conversation with with the public and industry to figure out like what's working, what's not. So I've been on the first one already, and there are several more. And the biggest thing that has come up is we need to get the government of Canada alerted to the positive economic impacts and put the cannabis industry into the bucket of also the economics of the country. Because right now it's only about the health aspects. And if you're considering all the positive benefits that cannabis has brought in terms of growth from an economic standpoint, Health Canada doesn't care about that. So that's why there's this big push to look at the other stuff and how overall it's had a massive impact to the positive parts of our economy in terms of job creation, economic impact dollars. I think we're at, $8.6 billion has been added to the Canadian economy. And one of the co-founders or the co-chairs of the working group, Nathan Meisen, he's talking about, how many more jobs or businesses have been created out of the cannabis industry than have shut down just of retail in the last year. So he's looking at traditional retail and saying there's a bunch of companies that are going out of business. We're seeing that in the headlines all the time. But then if you look at how many businesses, new businesses, small businesses, medium-sized, that are growing, that have been added to the economy, there's a net positive there for the cannabis sector. And that's a subject matter and a headline that really needs to be broadcast.
You're right. It really does. And Nathan is actually scheduled. Speaking with him today, he's going to appear on this program once again in the first week of December. So looking forward to chatting about this, among other things, as part of the conversation. And it's interesting. Our cannabis question today on this Hour One episode is, what's the one regulation that you would like changed? And, I've heard from retailers that say window coverings. As a media person, obviously the advertising restrictions should be lifted. And, most of these things are age gated when it comes to cannabis media productions, or at least you very much should be. So I think that's one thing that, obviously a lot of people I think are going to be wanting to take a look at.
Yeah, and the funny thing is none of those fall under the Health Canada mandate. So,
Yeah.
that's what I mean is that we have to raise the flag on all of the things that need to change that have nothing to do with the Health Canada part, that just to get them on the docket as like other people should care about this in government. So basically, with all of this happening, these roundtables and everything, government said it was going to be like an 18-month process of once they decided to make the changes. So literally 18 months from next year puts us into 2023 before changes are happening. And as an industry group, we're like, no, this has to happen a lot faster. So the plan is to really put together a cohesive set of policy, well-researched. And so we're just starting out that phases now where the questions of what matters to Canadians, what matters to the industry, and compiling a very solid policy document to essentially hand it to the government and says, here, we did your research, we did your homework, this is what you should do. Basically, that's the concept, is get the work done for them so it's not a bunch more months after that waiting for them to come back with policy changes that they're thinking about.
Yeah, and it's going to be, listen, this has to happen, or otherwise we will be, like you said, 2023, and then right on the heels of the next review of the 3 years. So it's a little bit ridiculous. And what's the mindset going into this right now? Are you confident that this will be pushed up?
I think so. I mean, I think the fact that, it has the impact economically is much easier to measure than health impacts.
Sure.
So, when we talk about GDP growth, that's an easy number for the government to understand. So when there's a bunch of headlines that says, $8.6 billion was added in 4 months, or, that's an easy metric for them to wrap their heads around, as opposed to, how many fewer Canadians under the age of 18 are using, cannabis. Like, that's a much harder number to capture. So I do think I'm very positive and optimistic about this, but a lot of the changes that need to happen are quite large in terms of economics. So just as an example, banking is a huge hurdle for cannabis businesses. The whole financial industry has created these gates, which are very good for securing financing for other businesses. But when it comes to an industry that is prohibitive or has been, it is still illegal everywhere else in the world, really, except for a couple of places. When you're talking about economics that has to do with money and money moving from illicit to legal channels, that's an area that the government has control over, but they have a very limited amount of resources that they're managing that. So that's the situation, is we need to essentially lobby for them to have more resources to prove that this is not illicit activity. This is actually above board tax collecting legal entities that are adding to jobs and everything else, but the resource base that's assigned to it at government level is constrained. So that's what I mean by pushing the government into the hurdle of, we need to actually show them they should assign resources so they could do a better job at measuring what matters, really, in this case.
Indeed, for sure. All right, let's get to change makers. And this is something that I spoke about recently with Jesse Lavoie of Canopy Growth when he was on this show, and we were talking about some stores and Bickles products, and he was mentioning that he's rolling out this Martha Stewart CBD line in the United States. My favorite quote from Martha Stewart is, "Of course I know how to roll a joint." She's just a marketing mania. She did a cooking show with Snoop that I really enjoyed, and I'm not surprised at all that she's rolled into the CBD game.
Not at all. And so here's what I take about Martha Stewart. So the queen of domestication. So I used to watch Martha Stewart when I was a teen. The fact that the products are only available in the US, it just has a halo effect to Canada. Cannabis is a Canadian company, and the products aren't available in Canada, but CBD is everywhere in every store. So as soon as you say, I want CBD, you can get it everywhere. So, and the candy, like the gummy that she's made, is also available from other brands, very similar. So if anyone were to walk into a store and say, I want Martha Stewart's candies, they may not have those, but they will have something very similar to try instead. So the fact that she's an endorsing of it, it doesn't matter. Like it's literally global, and she's brought a massive demographic that would normally be very anti-cannabis, and just said, we're just doing CBD. It's fine. It won't hurt you. It's in a candy. So she's normalized it to the point where it's accessible for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, and that's what I love about this.
Indeed. All right, let's get to what it means to be green. And You in particular are in search and constantly on the watch out for that elusive green investor.
Yeah, so this is a subject matter that I know intimately well, and have literally had these conversations with, like, I can't even count anymore, hundreds and hundreds of both investors and financial influential people. And what I'm talking about here is, I talk about what it means to be green in terms of both cannabis and helping the planet, but the people on helping the planet side don't understand the cannabis conversation. They're like, what are you talking about? So I have a lot of discombobulation or incongruence with people that, like, I do approach a lot of green investors. And this article talked about, greenbacks for green energy, because it was literally focusing on solar and wind power energy companies that have been getting tons of investment from big names. Like Bill Gates was on there, and big VC companies that are really focusing on green energy and renewable energy and planet saving technologies. And they are looking at the carbon capture as sort of that measurement of how do we reduce climate change and better impact the planet. And my secret answer is, have you looked at hemp? It's a lo-fi, low-tech growing plant like a weed everywhere. It's very easy to grow hemp en masse, industrial amounts of it. And the cool part about it, it doesn't just carbon capture when it's growing, but when you turn it into other stuff. And that's the technology part that needs the investment, is when you take hemp and take the biofibers or the fibers and the processing of getting it to that fiber state and then making it into another material. That's the secret that the rest of the green people don't understand. And I'm approaching them with investment opportunities in this space, and they're scratching their heads because they don't get it. And so it's a conversation that takes a little bit longer, but when you're trying to attract an investor's attention, it's hard to sort of condense the conversation into a short, pitch. But the thing is, they already get the green stuff. Now we have to show them how they can make money from doing it with another thing other than just energy or just wind power or just solar. Here's an answer with a new fiber that is now legal to produce en masse and to turn it into a stock material that can be then made into other things and still absorb and capture carbon while it's doing that. Yeah. So that's the part about this that not everybody gets, and it's a conversation I have repeatedly. And if I have any more help, I would love it. But we just kind of need a couple of people to be like, oh yeah, this is what she's talking about, to really get on the bandwagon to see this, a lot of the stuff that's going on in Canada and beyond in this space moving a lot farther and a lot faster.
Well, it only takes one person to realize there's more to green than just the environment. There's you can get involved in cannabis and lots of different aspects. And you talk about hemp, and when you take a hemp herds and you combine it with lime or sand and you get your hempcrete. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on Weed Words of the Day. It's it's been used in France for a long time, and it is really it's almost indestructible. Like there's just so much
it's pretty cool.
Good to go with that. And it was so ridiculous that hemp was lumped in with THC part of cannabis in the first place. But as you mentioned now, there's the world is wide open when it comes to hemp.
Exactly. And lately I'm getting a lot more attention in this space because it is becoming more legal in the US. And a lot of these big investment VC capital, venture capital groups are based in Silicon Valley or just in the US in general. So just to give you a little anecdote, I'm part of this accelerator program, and we're practicing pitching and presenting these business ideas that are complex, but you just shorten them to get their attention. And so the one message that I'm learning from this group is it doesn't matter about the whole business. Maybe the business isn't fully formed from a pitch purpose, and it's not, you're still early days. But the one thing they have told me is that, it's more about it's be interesting and don't suck, just to get their attention. So when I'm pitching, they're like, we want what Malkus is having, like that. We want to be on that party bus. Like that's the response I'm getting. They don't fully get what I'm talking about, but it doesn't matter. It's like, I can't explain it in 3 minutes, but what I can do is get their attention and get them to join the tribe. And that's what the Green Generation Company is doing, is getting more people to just get on the bus, have a joint or whatever you prefer a format to be, and then we'll get you to learn more about it as we take a ride down the legal cannabis market in Canada. And that's my plan right now.
I like it. I want to be on that bus ride the whole time. I'm in it to win it in the cannabis. I really enjoying it, and there are changes that have to be made. And as we revert back to our lead topic, you guys are working on those changes. Malka, thank you so much as usual for joining me on the business of cannabis. People can find out more information at greengencompany.com. Have a great week.
Thanks, Dean. You as well.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast, your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond.
All right, just before we get to Weed Word of the Day, just want to say thank you to the many partners that we have here on the program. Malka LaBelle from the Business of Cannabis, David Wiley of the OZ, who you'll hear in hour number 2. Chris Ianson, the manager of Nova Cannabis, is our educator, so it is great to keep these partnerships going for sure, including a great company like Stonesmiths. You can find them at stonesmiths.ca, a local Edmonton company, available at a number of different retail shops around the Edmonton and Calgary area. So I just absolutely love the partnerships that I've been able to form, and particularly with you, the listener, when it comes to the wonderful world of cannabis, exploring, learning, and just having a lot of fun. And that's what we're going to do right now with Weed Word of the Day.
Bud, dope, flower, ganja, Mary Jane.
We all have our own language when it comes to cannabis.
Herb, John Lennon, plant, Thai stick, salad.
So let's explore another weed word of the day.
Samuel L. Jackson, The Hobbit's Leaf, Lady Gaga, 420.
All right, if you're watching, you can see the two words that we are exploring today, pot and hempcrete. So the slang word is obviously pot. It doesn't have anything to do, from all my research I've been able to find about kitchen utensils and things like that. But the word derives from the Spanish word for marijuana leaves rather, patagaya. And the use of it began in North America close to 1940, a little bit before 1940. It's a shortening of that Spanish word that came from potación de gaya, a wine or brandy in which marijuana buds have been steeped, and it literally means the drink of grief. So it didn't start off with a great name. How this became pot and all the great words that we have, the drink of grief. But that was obviously kind of derived from something that was steeped in wine or brandy, and now obviously the pot that we have today is definitely not. Now our standard term we're going with is hempcrete, and this is something I learned about way long time ago, many episodes, 71 episodes ago actually, on our second episode, when my friend Jay came on the show and talked about hempcrete. And it is a mixture of hemp herds, lime, or sand. It could be used in so many different ways, from construction to insulation. It's not as brittle as concrete. It's lightweight, combines insulation and thermal mass. Has been used quite a bit in France since the 1990s. So, I think hempcrete is something that hopefully we get closer and closer to using a lot more here in North America. And because, hemp, if you know, and I don't know a whole lot about hemp, but I know a little bit from my friends that have educated me, it is such a healthy crop for the environment. It's barely unburnable, inflammable. It's just amazing. It's the hero that we certainly deserve here in the cannabis world. All right, we're going to wrap things up in just 1 second.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast, your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond.
I love Weed Word of the Day. I learned so many new things myself on Weed Word of the Day, so I hope you can get you educated as well. And thank you so much to the people that continue to reach out. I absolutely love the responses and the emails that I get from you. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying the show now that we're on YouTube or we're streaming it on our social media channels. And of course, thanks you to all of our partners on this program, including Stone Smiths. Check them out, a great local company, stonesmiths.ca, an Edmonton company with a really, really bright future. Check it out. And if you would like to become a partner of the show, email me, cannabis101podcast@gmail.com. That is cannabis101podcast@gmail.com. I'd love to welcome more partners to the show, as Melka LaBelle from the Green Generation Co. Thank you to her for joining me on this episode. And of course, David Wiley from the OZ. He will be on hour number 2 of episode 73, coming out later today. This would be Wednesday, November 18th. So all of our partners, big thanks to Chris Ianson from Nova Cannabis, Jasper Ave. He is my educator and he joins me every week for What's That Strain? This one was a fun one. Rockstar Tuna from the Green Organic Dutchman. All right, Andre Rachon of the Regal Cigar is going to join us on hour number 2 out later today. We're going to get the huge whole backstory of those beautiful, beautiful Regal cigars that we will be giving away in our cannabis question. And David Wiley, thankful to him to move to hour number 2. He will join us from the OZ on This Week in Cannabis News. You can get past episodes at www.cannabis101podcast.ca. And if you're interested in more shows, check out podcastalley.ca, where you can find out a whole bunch more of my programs. All right, that'll wrap things up for us this week. As we do every show, we finish off with the marijuana song from the artist My Dead Dog. Remember, it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. Have a good week, everybody.
Dynamite!
0.0.
Holy shnikes.
Nama